Some things become impossible to unsee once you touch them with your fingertips on someone else's iPad screen. That December Saturday in 2024 started as an ordinary weekend day. I, Victor, wasn't supposed to get behind the wheel until Monday. My client, the CEO of a major agribusiness company, had left for a week in Aspen. Bakersfield was experiencing one of its rare rainy days, and I just wanted to spend the day at home watching something on TV. Charlotte had driven to Fresno to visit her friend. At least that's what she told me. She was supposed to be back in the evening. I reached for her iPad to check the football game scores. She always left it on the coffee table. The screen lit up without requiring a password. She had forgotten to lock it. And there, in the messages, I saw the name Paul. Can't wait for Tuesday. That hotel in Visalia was magical. You are the magic of my present. My wife, with whom I had spent 33 years together, had responded, "You've made me feel alive again. Victor has never looked at me the way you do." I sat down on the couch. My hands were trembling. I scrolled further. Months of correspondence. Photos of bouquets that Paul had sent her. Plans for meetings. I discovered she had been seeing him for almost a year. They had met last winter at her company's corporate event. He was arranging the hall with flowers, and they had a cocktail together after the presentation. A florist. Owner of some boutique in downtown Bakersfield. 33 years. 2 adult children. Kevin, our son, an engineer in San Jose, and our daughter, a teacher in Los Angeles. The mortgage was almost paid off. The familiar rhythm of life. And now, this. I took screenshots. All the messages from the last 3 months. Then I turned on my laptop and logged into our online banking. We had a joint account. Charlotte earned more than me, managing the supply chain for a large distributor, while I drove VIP clients around the city and between cities. We had always trusted each other with finances. I started checking the transactions. Flower shops. Regular purchases of $150 to $300. Hotels in Visalia, Fresno. Restaurants. And most importantly, 3 transfers to Paul Robertson's account. $38,000 total over 10 months. Payment descriptions, business assistance, investment. I started shaking. Not just infidelity. She was spending our money on him. I sat there in the dimming afternoon light, rain drumming against the windows of our 3-bedroom house in Seven Oaks. The neighborhood was quiet as it usually was on weekends. Our neighbors, the Hendersons, had their Christmas lights up already, blinking red and green through the gray December drizzle. I had helped Mr. Henderson hang those lights 3 weeks ago, standing on his ladder while Charlotte brought us hot chocolate. That memory felt like it belonged to a different lifetime now. I kept scrolling through the messages. The more I read, the worse it got. There were references to romantic dinners at places I had never heard of. Inside jokes that excluded me from a life she was living in secret. She called him my flower man, and he called her my Lottie, a nickname I hadn't used in years, maybe decades. When had I stopped calling her that? The messages went back to January 2024. Almost a full year. How many nights had she claimed to be working late? How many weekend shopping trips with friends had been lies? I remembered her behavior over the past year. She had seemed happier, more energetic. I had thought maybe she was just enjoying her work more, or perhaps she had started exercising. She had bought new clothes, changed her perfume. I had noticed but hadn't questioned it. Why would I? After 33 years of marriage, you don't expect your wife to be living a double life. I found photos in their chat. Pictures of them together at restaurants I didn't recognize. One showed them at what looked like a vineyard. She had told me she was at a supply chain conference in Sacramento that weekend. Another showed Paul behind the counter of his flower shop, holding an elaborate bouquet with a note that read, "For my queen." The timestamp was from 3 weeks ago, during her girls' night out. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Charlotte. "Traffic is heavy. We'll be home around 8. Can you defrost something for dinner?" I stared at that message for a long moment. The casual domesticity of it. The lie embedded within it. I didn't respond. Instead, I went deeper into the financial records. The $38,000 hadn't been taken in one lump sum. That would have been too obvious. She had been careful. $2,000 here, $3,000 there. $5,000 labeled as home repairs, that had never happened. The largest single transfer was $8,000, marked as investment opportunity. I remembered her mentioning something about helping a friend's business, and I had trusted her judgment. I pulled up Paul Robertson's social media. His flower shop, Robertson's Blooms, had a professional page with photos of elaborate arrangements. He was 43 according to his profile. Never married. His shop was in the Arts District downtown, a trendy area I rarely visited. The business page showed photos of him at various events, corporate galas, weddings, charity functions. He was good-looking in that carefully groomed way with styled hair and designer clothes. Everything I wasn't. Charlotte returned at 7:30, half an hour earlier than she'd predicted. She walked in, shaking raindrops from her jacket, smiling. "Hey honey. Julie's doing great, we had a wonderful time catching up." Julie. Her friend from Fresno. I picked up my phone and dialed Julie's number. We occasionally texted, exchanging holiday greetings. "Hi Julie. Just checking, Charlotte just got back from your place?" There was a pause. "Victor? No, I haven't seen Charlotte in 3 or 4 months. Is something wrong?" I thanked her and hung up. Charlotte was in the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of water. I walked over and placed my phone in front of her, displaying the screenshots of her messages. "Explain to me who Paul is and why you transferred $38,000 of our money to him." Charlotte's face went white. She grabbed the phone, scrolled through the messages. Then she looked at me. And I didn't see fear or remorse. I saw irritation. "You were spying on me? Your iPad was lying unlocked. I wanted to check the football scores. Answer the question." She put the phone down. "Victor, this isn't what you think. This is exactly what I think. You're cheating on me. And you're stealing our money for your lover. It's not stealing. It's our joint account. Our account. But you spent that money on him." She sat down at the kitchen table, covered her face with her hands. I waited. Finally, she spoke quietly. "I haven't loved you for 15 years, Victor. Maybe longer. We've just been existing next to each other. Kids' work bills. And then I met Paul. He sees me. The real me. 15 years. I could barely speak. And you just kept pretending? Just like you have been. You don't love me either. When was the last time we talked about anything besides bills and the kids?" Maybe she was right. Maybe we had both just been existing. But I wasn't sleeping with someone else and spending our savings on it. The kitchen suddenly felt too small. I could hear the refrigerator humming, the rain still pattering against the window above the sink. The clock on the microwave read 7:47 p.m. Everything looked exactly as it had this morning, but nothing would ever be the same. "I met him at that corporate event last January," Charlotte continued, her voice taking on a dreamy quality that made me sick. "He was setting up the floral arrangements for the gala. We started talking during the cocktail hour. He was so interested in everything I said, Victor. He asked about my work, my opinions, my dreams. When was the last time you asked me about my dreams? I didn't realize you had dreams that involved betraying your family and stealing money." She flinched at that. The money was for his business. He's expanding, opening a second location. It was an investment in our future. Your future with him? While you're still married to me? I was going to tell you. Eventually. I just needed to figure out the right time. The right time? After you'd drained our entire savings? After you'd humiliated me for how long? She stood up abruptly. "You want to talk about humiliation? Try being invisible in your own marriage. Try being taken for granted every single day. I handle the finances, I manage our household, I maintain relationships with both our families, and what do? You drive people around and come home and watch TV. I work hard to provide for this family. So do I. But Paul appreciates me. He brings me flowers every week. He writes me poetry. He makes me feel like I'm worth something more than just being a wife and a mother." "Pack your things," I said quietly. The anger had burned through me and left something cold and hard in its place. "Go to him. Or to a hotel. I don't care. Victor. Get out." She went to the bedroom. I could hear her moving around, opening drawers, the closet door sliding. I stood in the kitchen, staring at nothing. Through the window, I could see the Hendersons' house, their happy Christmas lights still blinking. Were they happy? Or were they also just pretending, going through the motions of a life that had lost its meaning? 20 minutes later, Charlotte emerged with a suitcase and an overnight bag. She stood in the doorway looking at me. For a moment, I thought she might apologize, might say something that would make this hurt less. Instead, she said, "You'll regret this. Paul and I love each other. What we have is real. What you have is built on lies and stolen money. Good luck with that." She left. The door closed behind her, and I was alone in a house that suddenly felt enormous and empty. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch, going through every memory of the past year, trying to identify all the lies. The weekend she'd gone to a supply chain conference in Sacramento. She'd posted photos from a hotel room with a view of the Capitol building. Had Paul been there with her? The Tuesday evening she'd started yoga classes. Had she been with him then too? My birthday dinner in August, where she'd seemed distracted, checking her phone constantly. Had she been texting him? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click like if you enjoy this story. I always read your comments and analyze which stories you like best so that I can create better stories. Thank you. I will continue the story. Sunday morning I called Brenda, my sister. She lived in the adjacent neighborhood and we had always been close. I need your help, I said. She arrived within 30 minutes with coffee and croissants. She listened to everything. She hugged me. You need to act fast, Brenda said. Don't give her time to regroup. She was right. On Monday, I took the day off and drove to attorney Edward Richmond's office. One of my clients had recommended him. Edward listened, reviewed the screenshots and bank statements. This is good, he said. Very good for you. She used joint funds for an extramarital affair. The court will take that into account. I want to take as much as I can, I said. Not out of revenge. Just because it's fair. Edward nodded. First, we need to document all assets. Second, are there any other funds that can be protected? I thought about our savings. There was still about $45,000 left in the account. If Charlotte realized we were going to war, she might drain it. What do you recommend? Legally? Purchase bearer bonds through a financial advisor. Today. Before I file the divorce papers. It's your joint money, you have the right to manage it. I drove to the financial advisor who worked with my CEO client. Within 2 hours, $45,000 had been converted into bearer bonds. Protected. That evening, Kevin called. Dad, what's going on? Mom sent some strange messages. I told him everything. He was silent for a long time. God, he finally said. I had no idea. Nobody did. She hid it well. What are you going to do? File for divorce. Kevin flew to Bakersfield the next day. We drove together to Los Angeles to see Sarah. I wanted to tell her in person. My daughter cried, hugged me. Dad, I'm so sorry. I always thought you were the perfect couple. I thought so too, sweetheart. Both children supported me. Charlotte called them, tried to explain that everything is complicated, that Dad doesn't understand. But the facts were facts. Over the next few days, I learned more about Paul Robertson than I ever wanted to know. I couldn't help myself. I dug into his background like I was investigating a crime. In a way I was. Paul's flower shop had opened 5 years ago. According to public records, it had been struggling financially until about 2 years ago, when suddenly it showed significant improvement. Now I knew why he had found Charlotte. But was she his first investor? I created a fake social media profile and started following the accounts of people who regularly commented on his business page. I found 2 women who seemed to have been particularly close to Paul based on old tagged photos. Both had stopped interacting with his page about a year before Charlotte entered the picture. I sent them careful, friendly messages. One ignored me. The other, a woman named Patricia, responded. We talked. She had dated Paul for 6 months 3 years ago. She had invested $12,000 in his business. When she ran out of money to give him, he had gradually pulled away, claiming he was too busy with the shop. She later learned he had started seeing someone else almost immediately, a woman who owned a successful catering business. The second woman, Diane, eventually responded too. Her story was nearly identical. 8 months of romance, $15,000 invested. Then abandonment when her money ran out. Paul Robertson was a con artist who targeted successful, lonely women. And Charlotte was his latest mark. Edward filed the divorce papers on a Wednesday in early January. Charlotte hired an attorney and the war began. She demanded half of everything, the house, the savings, my pension. My attorney laid out the evidence, the messages, the financial transactions, the lies. But I wasn't done. I had more planned than just a divorce settlement. I had learned that Paul had met Charlotte at her company's corporate event. He had used those contacts to expand his business, getting orders from corporations through Charlotte's network. It was unethical at best, possibly a violation of her company's conflict of interest policies. I compiled all the evidence, dates of corporate events, corresponding messages between Charlotte and Paul, records of contracts Paul's business had received from companies in Charlotte's supply chain network, and sent it anonymously to her employer's HR department. I also started posting about Paul's pattern on local forums and review sites. I didn't use my real name, but I made sure the information was public. I posted screenshots of conversations with Patricia and Diane, along with the timeline of Paul's relationships. I made it clear that he had a pattern of exploiting women financially under the guise of romantic relationships. Within 2 weeks, Paul's business reputation started crumbling. Several of his corporate clients quietly canceled their standing orders. His social media pages were flooded with questions and accusations. He tried to delete negative comments, but more kept appearing. Charlotte's company launched an internal investigation. They found that she had indeed used her position to steer business opportunities to Paul's flower shop, violating their ethics policies. They didn't fire her. She had been with them for 18 years and her actual job performance was good. But they demoted her from supply chain manager to supply chain coordinator, cutting her salary by nearly 30%. The house felt different now. I had changed the locks the day after Charlotte left, on Edward's advice. Walking through it at night, I kept expecting to hear her footsteps, her voice. Instead, there was just silence and the hum of appliances. I had lived in this house for 12 years. We had hosted Thanksgiving dinners here, birthday parties, graduation celebrations. Kevin had lived in the second bedroom until he left for college. Sarah's room still had her old posters on the walls from high school. Now all those memories felt contaminated. Brenda came over for dinner every Wednesday. She had always been my anchor even when we were kids. She was 2 years younger than me, worked as a dental hygienist, had been happily married for 20 years to a man who actually appreciated her. "How are you holding up?" she asked one evening in late January as we ate the pasta she had brought over. "Some days better than others," I admitted. "I keep thinking about all the times she lied to me. Every lie, every secret meeting. It replays in my head." "That's normal," Brenda said. "Betrayal trauma is real. Have you thought about seeing a therapist?" "Maybe. Right now, I'm focused on the divorce." "And the revenge?" I looked at her. "Is it revenge if I'm just exposing the truth?" "Victor, I'm not judging you. Honestly, after what she did, she deserves everything coming to her. I'm just worried about you. Make sure you're doing this because it's what you need, not because you're trying to hurt her." I thought about that. Was I trying to hurt Charlotte? Maybe. But more than that, I was trying to protect other women from Paul, and I was trying to make sure Charlotte faced real consequences for her choices. She had spent years lying to me, stealing from our joint account, building a secret life. She didn't get to just walk away from that without repercussions. "She used company resources for personal gain," I said. "She helped her boyfriend defraud other women. These aren't just things that hurt me, they're things that affect other people. If I don't expose it, who will?" Brenda nodded slowly. "You're right. Just don't lose yourself in the process." Charlotte called me in mid-February. It was late at night, nearly 11 p.m. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want?" I asked. "Victor." Her voice was shaky and I could tell she'd been crying. "Paul, he broke up with me." "I'm sorry to hear that." I wasn't sorry at all. "He said I'm too much drama now. That I'm ruining his business. That he can't afford to be associated with me anymore." She was openly sobbing now. "I gave him everything. I left you for him. And he threw me away. He used you, Charlotte. Just like he used at least 2 other women before you. I found them. They told me the same story: romance, requests for money, disappearance when the money ran out." There was silence on the other end. Then, in a small voice, "You knew?" "I figured it out. I'm guessing the $38,000 you gave him is gone now?" "He said it was for expanding the business. That we were building our future together." "There was no future. He's a con artist and you were his mark." More crying. "My job, they demoted me. They cut my salary. Everyone knows what I did. And now Paul doesn't even want me." A part of me felt sorry for her. But a larger part remembered all the lies, all the betrayals, all the ways she had justified destroying our marriage. "You made your choices, Charlotte. Now you live with the consequences." "I made a mistake, Victor. I see that now. Is there any way, can we talk about this? Maybe we could try counseling?" "No. Please. I'll do anything. I'll pay back the money. Charlotte, you told me you haven't loved me for 15 years. You told me Paul made you feel alive in ways I never could. Those words don't just go away. You don't get to take them back because your affair blew up in your face." I was angry when I said that. "I didn't mean." "Yes, you did. You meant every word. And you know what? You were probably right. We probably haven't been in love for years. But I didn't lie to you. I didn't cheat on you. I didn't steal from you. That's the difference between us. So that's it? 33 years of marriage and you're just done. You were done 15 years ago. You just didn't tell me." I hung up. My hands were shaking. Despite everything, hearing her voice brought back memories, good memories from before everything fell apart. Our wedding day, both of us young and hopeful. The day Kevin was born, how Charlotte had held him and cried with joy. Sarah's first day of school, how we had stood together watching her walk into the building. Those memories were real, even if the marriage had become hollow. But they weren't enough to forgive what she had done. The divorce proceedings continued through February and into March. My attorney was methodical, documenting every lie, every unauthorized transaction, every violation of trust. Charlotte's attorney tried to argue that the money she had given Paul was her right to spend from a joint account, that there was no law against having an affair. My attorney countered with evidence of financial infidelity, demonstrating a pattern of deception and misuse of marital assets. Kevin and Sarah stopped talking to their mother entirely in February. Charlotte had tried to turn them against me, claiming I was vindictive, that I had destroyed her relationship and her career out of spite. But the kids had seen the evidence. They knew the truth. She called me yesterday, Kevin told me during one of our weekly phone calls. She said you manipulated everyone against her. That she was the real victim. What did you tell her? I told her that victims don't steal $40,000 and lie for a year straight. I told her that if she wanted to play the victim, she'd have to find a different audience. I felt a surge of pride. My son had grown into a man with a strong moral compass. Sarah was more conflicted. Part of me wants to forgive her, she admitted. She's still my mom. But every time I think about calling her, I remember how she lied to all of us. How she was living this secret life while we all thought everything was fine. How do you forgive that? You don't have to forgive her, I said. Not right now, maybe not ever. You get to protect yourself first. The divorce was finalized in mid-March 2025. The judge reviewed all the evidence, the messages, the financial records, the testimonies, everything. He ruled in my favor on almost every point. I received 65% of our joint assets. The house was mine. Charlotte got 35% of its value if I chose to sell, but I had the option to buy out her share instead. Our savings, what was left of them after Charlotte's investments in Paul, were divided with the same proportion. She kept her car and some furniture. Her retirement account remained hers and mine remained mine. The judge specifically cited Charlotte's systematic deception and misuse of marital funds in his ruling. He noted that while California was a no-fault divorce state, the court could still consider misconduct when dividing assets, particularly when that misconduct involved financial betrayal. Charlotte sat in the courtroom looking diminished. She had lost weight and there were dark circles under her eyes. Her attorney whispered something to her and she just nodded blankly. When the judge finished reading his decision, she didn't even look at me. She just stood up and walked out. I felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, no lingering anger. Just emptiness. Paul's flower shop closed in April. I heard about it through Brenda, who had heard it from a friend. The landlord had evicted him for non-payment of rent. Apparently, without Charlotte's money and without his corporate clients, the business couldn't sustain itself. He had tried to run a liquidation sale, but even that had failed to draw much interest. Local news sites reported it as a cautionary tale about small business failure, but those of us who knew the truth understood it was really a story about karma. Someone told me Paul had moved to Fresno, trying to start over. I didn't care enough to verify it. As for Charlotte, she rented a small apartment in East Bakersfield, in a much less expensive neighborhood than Seven Oaks. Her demotion had forced her to downsize her entire life. She drove a 10-year-old sedan now. She had sold her newer car to pay for legal fees. Brenda mentioned seeing her at a grocery store once, but I asked her not to tell me about it. I didn't want to know. That chapter of my life was closed. It was now mid-May 2025, and I was still living in our house in Seven Oaks. I had thought about selling it, starting completely fresh somewhere new, but ultimately decided to stay. This was my home too, and I had as many good memories here as bad ones. I had repainted the bedroom, bought new furniture, gotten rid of everything that reminded me of Charlotte. The house felt like mine now, not ours. Brenda still came over every Wednesday for dinner. Sometimes we cooked together, sometimes we ordered takeout. We didn't always talk about the divorce or Charlotte. Sometimes we just watched TV or played cards like we used to when we were kids. Kevin and Sarah called every week. Kevin was doing well at his engineering job in San Jose. He had recently been promoted to senior engineer, working on sustainable technology projects. Sarah was thriving as a teacher, her students loved her, and she had started an after-school art program that was getting attention from the district administration. And then yesterday Sarah called with news. "Dad, I have something to tell you," she said, her voice bubbling with excitement. "What's up, sweetheart?" James proposed. "We're engaged." James was her boyfriend of 2 years, a music teacher at a different school in Los Angeles. I had met him a few times, Good guy, patient, kind, clearly adored my daughter. That's wonderful, I said, and I meant it. Congratulations. Thank you. Oh Dad, I'm so happy. He did it in Griffith Park during sunset. He had arranged for a string quartet to play our favorite song. It was perfect. When's the wedding? We're thinking October. Autumn wedding, probably somewhere in the countryside outside LA. There was a pause. Dad. Yeah. I want you to walk me down the aisle. My eyes stung. Of course I will, sweetheart. I'd be honored. And, about Mom. I waited. I don't think I want her there. I know that sounds harsh, but I don't want the drama. This is supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and I'm afraid she'll make it about her. About how hurt she is, how we all abandoned her. It's your wedding, Sarah. You invite whoever you want. You're not going to tell me I should forgive her? That's not my place. Forgiveness is something you give when you're ready, not when someone else thinks you should. She was quiet for a moment. Thanks, Dad. For understanding. For everything. After we hung up, I sat on my back porch watching the sun set over the neighborhood. The Hendersons' Christmas lights were long gone, replaced by spring decorations. Kids were playing in the street, their laughter carrying on the evening air. Life went on. I thought about Charlotte sometimes, but not with anger anymore. Mostly I felt sad about the waste of it all, the years of pretense, the slow death of affection, the lies that had piled up until they collapsed under their own weight. Had we ever really been happy, or had it always been a performance? I didn't have answers. Maybe I never would. What I did know was this. I was 58 years old, I had 2 wonderful children who loved me, a sister who supported me, a steady job that I was good at, and a home that was truly mine. Charlotte had tried to take that from me, the security, the dignity, the future I had worked for. She hadn't succeeded. Paul had tried to profit from her betrayal. He had failed too. Meanwhile I was here. Still standing. Still moving forward. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to travel. And that was enough. Thank you for watching this video. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.